I want to thank the Hedberg Public Library for inviting me here today, and especially Maureen Birchfield. Thank you, Maureen. And I think it's wonderful that they're putting on programs for seniors and calling it Senior Moments. Really, really an important avenue and information for all of us that will help us with different facets of our life at this point. My presentations are it's very important to me that they're very interactive. I don't wait for questions and conversation afterwards. We'll go slide by slide, and it's a discussion because I believe each presentation should evolve as it goes, and your input is just as important as my input because this is not cut and dried. I want your thoughts, I want your ideas, I want your tricks, I want your opinions, and I will continually build this program because I want to continue to bring it to seniors and people that are downsizing. So I'm going to start now. Thank you. My name is Laura Dahl, and I'm a senior lifestyle concierge. I'm 58 years old. When I hit 55, I decided I didn't want to work for someone else anymore because our philosophies didn't match. And I decided that I would create my own business based on the things that I love and working with the population that I love. I worked previous to that for 25 years working with seniors as a dietary manager, chef, marketing person in assisted living throughout southern Wisconsin. And I also did presentations with the Wisconsin Assisted Living Association. So when I decided what my new career would be, it entailed all of those things and all the things that I like to do. And relocation and downsizing to be one of them. And it is an overwhelming thing. I'm going through it right now. My husband and I are moving from our 10-room Victorian house to a 6-room red brick home up by Beloit College. And it's time, but it's overwhelming. And so we're going to share tips with each other. Feel free to interact. Don't be afraid to say something that you feel is valuable to our discussion. My mission really is working with the aging population to encourage, promote, and support a positive, independent lifestyle. And for people that are considering downsizing, what a tremendous opportunity for you to continue to maintain your independence, but in a simpler and less cluttered way. My mother, Betty, is my inspiration. My mother, Betty, is 83 years old. She's had some mishaps in the last year, but she's an extremely independent, driven, and wonderful woman, and I'm grateful that she's my mother. I took her to see Marcia Ball in Madison two summers ago on Williamson Street. And you know, Williamson Street, there isn't much parking, so I dropped her off at the festival. Then I went to park, and it took me at least a half an hour to find a parking place. And when I came back, she had hijacked a Vespa, and there she was. So it's part of who she is and my inspiration. One of the things that should be of note with seniors downsizing are some of the statistics, and every day 10,000 people in the United States turn 65. That's a pretty big number. The boomers are aging. More than 40% of Americans ages 50 to 64 plan to move within the next 5 years. It's a lot of people as well. 20% of them will become renters. By 2030, boomers will release some 26 million homes into the market, but we won't deal with that. So, but anyway, one of the considerations for downsizing. I thought to myself, what are the questions we need to ask ourselves when we're making the decision to downsize, be it to a smaller home, a condominium, an independent apartment, or perhaps an assisted living? So you do need to ask, where am I going? Who is helping me? And that's crucial. Many of us probably have children, but many of us probably have children that might be out of state. So that's where my help can come in, or a moving company's help can come in, or other resources that we all have available, and I'll share some of those at the end of the program. And then you have to know, what's your timeline, and when am I moving? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 2 years? You know, and so you have to think through those things and set yourself a timeline, as I said. Any comments or questions on that? Anyone going through this process right now? Would you like to share?
Well, we, 2 months ago, we moved from Illinois up to Edgerton because our children all live up this way. And we moved from a large home, our family home, to a smaller home, and cross state lines. So it's been a real
transition.
Yes,
yeah.
And you know, we're still got a lot of unpacking to do. We did a lot of downsizing, we thought already, but there's, of course, not knowing what you need when we got here was.
So would you say you're going to downsize, you're downsizing again? Yes. Which is really a good thing.
Well, that's our winter plans. We figure since we can't go anywhere, we'll unpack more boxes and do that. But I was going to say, when we did move, we did hire a moving company because though our kids would have been happy to help, they of course have all their jobs and their families, and you know, trying to coordinate something like that was going to be a big thing. And we've always moved ourselves through the years, but now that we're more seniors, we decided this wasn't going to work. So it was quite expensive to move that far, but it was the best thing we did. It was the best money, I think, for all the move.
Good for you.
Was to do that, and those people were so helpful and just accommodating, and took a lot of the worry and the, you know.
Good. Do you feel like there are any other questions that need to be asked, that need to be added to this list based on your experience?
No, I think you've covered it pretty good.
Good.
Other than how are we going to?
Okay, and I think I tied that into who is helping me, but we'll do the how. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome.
Other than that, yeah, I think that.
Awesome. What do you feel like your biggest obstacle was?
Packing.
Yeah, the packing, which we did on our own because that saved some of the money, but. You know, if you're not moving that far and you can do the downsizing ahead, I mean, they'll come in and pack everything and do. I mean, you know, we felt kind of weird just sitting there as they were moving the stuff and drinking our coffee, and these men are going and they're putting stuff on the truck, and we just sort of, oh, this is sort of strange.
It's a hard adjustment, isn't it?
We're used to having to do it, you know, so.
Letting go.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know what the hardest, I think just packing and the downside, and the, you know, we went through a lot of things that, being in a big home, you have a lot of things that get pushed in the back of the basement or the back of the attic, and when you start going through them, there's a lot of reminiscing. But you come to a point where, you know, I haven't seen this for 30 years, so I think I have to let it go.
Right.
You know.
And I'll talk about reminiscing and a little bit about the memory part of it.
And the downsizing is just that's the big part of it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing with us. You, sir, you had a comment?
21 years ago, I had everything under control. I was living in a 2-bedroom duplex by myself, and my mother passed away in Racine. My father moved here and a truckload of stuff, and then he passed away, and I threw some out, but there are some things, if you could tell me an honest person or two who could look at some of the things that I've inherited. There are 2 great big boxes of what would be called junk jewelry from my mother and grandmother, but I've heard that it could be worth something. I hate to just...
And I'll talk about that as well when we get on further into the discussion. And when I am finished...
I was going to say, come next month, because our program will be...
Anna DiPasquale.
Yes, vintage costume jewelry, and so she could tell you about some of those items. So, excuse me.
That's okay. I'm glad, Maureen. It's about interaction, so you have a pass. One of the things at the end of the program, if you have questions, feel free to sit down with me and we'll talk about some things. And I'm not alone in this business. I refer out to a lot of people, but here's who I refer to. I refer to people with like values, that have the commitment to the aging population that I do and that I know, because I'm not going to send someone to someone that I do not personally know myself, because we need to share the same values. So I'd be happy to. Any other comments on the considerations, thoughts, ideas? Do we get that covered pretty well? Oh, we do. There you go.
I don't know if I have any comments, but I'm going through it now.
Is it stressing you out? Okay. You can talk to me and I'll do a complimentary consultation, because I have a big heart too, and I want to help people. And with no commitment, I will come and talk to you and kind of help you through the steps. Okay? And maybe after this program, you'll feel a little better too. It's very overwhelming. So, anyway, hang in there. Yes?
Is this where you would mention maybe moving into a one-level?
Well, we can talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that as we move on too. But will you do this for me? If it doesn't come up, make sure you speak up again, okay? All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Oops. Here's my thought. Make a list of everything you have. Do you love it? Do you need it? Are you going to keep it? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to donate? If you love something and it means something and it's not going to take up a lot of space, by all means you should keep it, because we are attached to our possessions, but you don't want it to overcome your new space. But certain things that are near and dear to you, if you want to keep them, you should. And maybe when you're in your new environment, you'll be able to let go of it if you choose. But needs, I think if you make a list of your needs for your new environment, the very basics, think about a kitchen, what you actually need in your kitchen to survive in the way in which you live. How many pans do you need? How many glasses do you need? How many plates do you need? How many silverware? Build it on that, make your lists, and be organized that way. Need and keep are pretty much the same. But, and then selling, there's a lot of options for you to do selling, and we'll talk about that as well. And then donation. Don't throw anything out. Don't throw anything out if you can help it, except for papers that you no longer need. Make sure you shred them. Make sure you take them to the bank that offers shredding once a month or wherever. Does the library offer shredding, Maureen? Okay, I didn't know. But to a bank. Papers that you haven't looked at in 10 and 15 years, probably 5, 10, and 15 years, that you no longer need, and they serve no purpose, you need to shred them.
So, Laura,
Yes?
Office Pro will also do shredding for $5 a bag.
Did everyone hear that? Office Pro, and where is Office Pro at?
Parker Drive by Traxler Park.
Office Pro on Parker Drive by Traxler Park does shredding for $5?
Yeah.
Or and $3, depending upon the amount probably. Yeah, okay. So, but as in reference to donating, as I said, don't throw out, because you never know the value of something, and money is money, and you know, we don't want to throw away money either. Donations, you can get write-offs, use it as a write-off, and you need to, if you go to Salvation Army, Goodwill, or St. Vinny's, stay there until you get the forms that they give you. What do they call them? It just slipped. Yeah, it slipped my mind. So, any comments on this? The love, the need, the keep, the sell, the donate. Yes.
I've kind of been in this process for several years. I'm a slow mover.
And that's okay.
But I've done a couple of workshops on this. But one group that really appealed to me is called Segway out of Madison and Milwaukee.
I've heard of them.
And they will sort that. They will do whatever you want them to do. It's for a fee.
Right.
They'll do the whole darn thing. You just tell them what you want, and they'll pack, move, unpack, get the whole place ready, or just do parts. It's just how much you don't want to do, or how much you want to invest, or if you're sick or elderly and you can't do it yourself, then just do the whole thing.
There need to be.
But they do all the selling and the sorting and the eBay and running it around. They know the value of things.
And those are things that my business does as well. But I'll be honest too, if there's a project that's too big for me, I'm not going to be greedy about it. I'm going to farm it out. And yes, Segway does have a very good reputation, and they share my values as well. So Segway out of Madison is good. Thank you for that.
The self-moving trucks
Yes.
on Milwaukee Street there?
Yes.
They have people that volunteer their time.
Okay.
To help people move.
Okay, and that's the U-Haul at what location?
On East Milwaukee.
East Milwaukee Street. So they'll get volunteers to help people that might not have the financial availability to.
They're like police officers.
It's wonderful.
Firemen and whoever wants a little extra income.
Thank you for that. I had no idea. So that's really good and valuable.
Yeah, that just came out, I would say maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Good. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Okay. And where to begin? My suggestion, and I'm not the authority, but that's why we're sharing, I would do one room at a time. Like the lady in the back said, she did it over the course of a few years. You know, if we know it's inevitably going to happen that you're going to move.
Oh, I haven't moved yet.
Well, there you go. But you're preparing.
I'm being pushed.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
And so I do a little here and a little there, but I'm not ready to go, but they think I am. So.
Well, I will also say this then. Because I've worked in long-term care for 25 years, I believe that each and every one of us should live in our own home as long as we can, as long as we're safe, and as long as we as individuals choose. But safety is the number one. So kudos to you. Okay. So one room at a time kind of breaks it down and doesn't make it as overwhelming. And then with that room, go through the needs versus wants. Have your boxes ready. Box as you go. Like things together. One box for keeping and one box for selling. And if you do need a third for donation, that's fine. Make sure you label your box as well, so you know what's in them. And I think it's really important to move them to an off-stage location so you don't get overwhelmed with them. If you have a garage, if you have a corner somewhere, but somewhere where they're not an obstacle for you, obviously for safety reasons, but just to get them off stage so you don't have to look at them all the time. Does that make sense? Because it does overwhelm you. Clutter overwhelms all of us. So, yes. Hi.
Hi, my name is Terry.
Hi, Terry.
And I've worked with the elderly for many years also.
Thank
helping
you.
them downsize.
Thank you.
And I found that once it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And then they also don't have a tendency to revisit that tote and start picking out things that they
Changing their mind.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. All right.
Good point. Good point. Any other comments on that? Okay. Okay. Now, when we get to the point of selling our items, our possessions, our memories, our lives, rummage sale or estate sale, if you're capable, I think it's a great idea. I think that in a lot of times in a rummage or an estate sale, you can get really good prices for your items. And if it's advertised well, and there's great ways to advertise your rummage sales. There's a rummage sale app on your smartphone, and if you need help with that, I'd be more than willing to help you with that. Estate sales, there's some great estate sale companies in the area, and I do it myself, but I also, as I said before, I refer out to other people that share my values because I can't do it all either. So, but I would only recommend to you ones that I know are reputable and that are above board. And then Goodwill, Salvation Army, St. Finney's, we all know them. What else do we have in town? We have a Grace, which is a wonderful, wonderful secondhand thrift shop. We have Mercy Hospital, Castaways on Milton Avenue, right? There are many. I think you just have to find what you make a connection to, what organization you make a connection to. So, but I think you should always try to sell first if you can. There are also some wonderful, wonderful consignment shops in Janesville, and we can talk about those too personally, one-on-one if you choose. And one of the things, depending upon the consignment shop you do connect with, a few of them will come and go through your things with you, and the one in particular that I know and recommend because of their ethics, he will come to your home and he will bring the items that you're willing to consign with him, and he will make the arrangements to have them put into his store. And then you're going to get top dollar and he takes a percentage. So, and one of the things about that, a consignment, is because the owner has a realistic idea of what the value is and knows because he's been doing it for quite a while. So it might be to your advantage to look that way. Others are eBay, Craigslist, but I think that might necessitate a little bit of help from your children or neighbors or friends that might be able to help you in that arena, because it's a little bit, takes a little bit of tech savvy, which I don't 100% have either. I'm learning every day, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going. So, questions on this? Is this a time where you might want to interject on this slide? No? Anyone? Yes?
I think part of the problem is trying to convince siblings that what your parent left behind is worth selling rather than just taking to the landfill.
Exactly.
We didn't discuss family dynamics yet, have we? So, and
I mean, I was all for that, and my sister threw out I don't know how much before I was able to convince her, let's have a garage sale. This was in the fall. Let's have a garage sale next spring. We'll have all winter to go through her things, decide what some things are just really kind of trash and just rubbish need to be thrown out, but those that would bring a fair price at a garage sale. So.
And also allows for a tremendous opportunity for siblings with their mother or father or both parents to reminisce, to talk about memories, to maybe cry a little, to laugh a little, to say, hey, I remember this. And it really allows for letting go and purging of things because you've had that conversation. I also recommend to people, if it's something that you really love but you know you're not going to use again, take a picture of it and use that picture as a memory, and then you'll have that as a memento of something you did let go of. So, any more thoughts? Yes.
I think one thing you should add on there is recycling. Going through my dad's stuff, there was a lot of stuff that actually went to the recycling place.
Very good point.
And you make money that way too.
Thank you. Yeah, you don't want to throw away anything.
I mean, granted he lived on a farm, but we probably made over $1,000 on metal shelves and just junk that you couldn't have gotten any money from anyplace else.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Like I said, we're in this together. We have to help each other. And if I forget something or didn't include something, I want to know. Thank you very much. Any other thoughts? Rummage, did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One tip that my sister had gave me some years ago, I'm kind of a pack rat.
Oh, really?
So sort of.
I'll have a little bit.
But with my handicaps, it's hard to go outside and take stuff to the garbage and all that stuff. But anyway, she keeps telling me that if you, like with clothes, if you haven't worn this or that thing for at least 6 months to a year, then it's time to let it go.
I agree. And I think, yeah, if you haven't used an item in a year, what's the point? And if you haven't worn something, but you have to remember with clothing, you have to think about seasons, so I would say a year to a year and a half with clothing, but just depending upon the season, because I change my clothes for the different seasons. You know, we wear sweaters in the winter and we wear t-shirts in the summer, so, you know. But if you haven't worn something, what's the point, really? Right.
Oh, and she keeps telling me, she keeps giving me a hint like that.
When you're ready, you'll do it. I know. But maybe one thing you could do, I could challenge you to, is do a box a month and make that your goal. Start small and say, I'm going to do that this month and make a commitment to it.
Well, see, with like I said, with my handicap, with my knees and everything else, I can take time to make about 20, 30 trips out to the garbage all day long.
Do you have someone that helps you?
Well, I'm thinking about getting everything ready and put it on one of my couches and then have some of my nephews come over.
I love it.
And take them outside for me.
What you could do is have like an organizing party, and if you could buy lunch for them, or if you could make lunch or whatever, something fun and something interactive, and make it an event, they'll come, and then you can get something accomplished.
Well, my sister even mentioned it too.
Yeah. So think about it.
About putting everything in one spot, and then my nephews could come over and take everything out for me that way.
Yep. But they could help you with other things too. So you just have to ask.
I need a whole new body. Knees and arms and shoulders.
But you're here, right?
Arthritis is a killer.
Right. You had a comment or
Well,
question?
yeah, when she mentioned clothes, my son buys storage units and then we do sales, but recently too though, some of his elderly neighbors have been bringing things over when we've had the rummage sales. And so we've been helping them that way.
It's wonderful.
And I didn't think when you had the screen up before, but we also helped a family where the husband died sell some things. And my son researches everything before it gets sold or whatever. Clothes, though, are one thing that don't really sell. People could take them to Perfectly Plus, but otherwise, my recommendation would be to donate.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, if you have a rummage sale and you do put clothes out, and like Pam said, a lot of times clothes just don't sell, to donate them. Because we all know people less fortunate than ourselves do need clothing. So I think that's a great idea.
There's about 3 other places where you can donate things to.
Okay.
It's the homeless shelter.
Okay.
None.
Okay.
And then there's the abuse, the abuse center.
I'm not sure.
The
They're-
helpline, YWCA.
Yeah, there really are quite a few places, and really you can probably look them up or ask your
Okay,
friends.
and I'll add that to my list too for future
Then
presentations. I'll do a little research.
that women's homeless shelter.
The YWCA?
No, it's done by Echo.
Okay, all right, good, good. Any others? Yes.
I have a thing that I think most people don't think of. They take pictures differently now, but years ago we took it with a camera. And my husband's parents died. He had quite a few siblings, and there was all this controversy over this one wanted that picture, and that one wanted that picture, and that one wanted that picture. So I decided I'm going to go through all the pictures. The ones that I don't even remember who some of these people were, those are going to get disposed of, and make copies for each of the children that they're on. So there isn't going to be any controversy of who's going to get a picture.
Very wise, very wise. It's a great idea. Awesome. Any others? So, letting go and moving forward. Our friend over here who's a little stressed and a little disheartened by the whole process and is overwhelmed. I think we need to look at it from the standpoint that it gives us a new opportunity for a new start, to simplify our lives, because we all need that, because we have so much stimulus coming from all different areas in our lives, and just let it go. Let it go. Right, Maureen? Yes, Maureen. But acknowledging the memories along the way and holding them in our heart. A new adventure, embracing change. It's really healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, to be able to let go. Easier said than done, but you just have to think about the end result and ask for help. Any comments on this? Yes, sir.
I'll just add that you're talking about clothes that aren't very good. I found out at Goodwill, they said if something's tattered or has a hole in it, bring it in, and they'll take it to Milwaukee, and it could be ground up and made into paper or something. So rather than putting it in the trash, it can be reused.
I think I'll take my wool shawl that my husband accidentally shredded in the shredder 2 nights ago, and he called me from work yesterday, and he said, Laura, I did something so terrible. And I said, Carrie, what could it be? And he said, you know, your favorite wool scarf. And I said, okay. And he said, you laid it on top of the shredder. And I said, oh. And I said, you know, Carrie, we've been married 33 years. That is so not important. So, but it was my favorite because the colors are magnificent. Beautiful purples and greens and pinks and just luscious. So I'm going to find someone that can cut it up even more and make it look like it was made that way. So I'm going to figure it out. So we make the most out of our whatever situation presents ourselves, and letting go, myself more than anyone. So, anyone. Any other comments on this section? Maureen, from your philosophical perspective, no, seriously, and maybe Pam, thoughts on letting go?
It's something we all have to do all through life. And so this is just another time we get to practice. And it definitely is a hard thing, and that's why when we first met and we were talking, and I said, oh my gosh, this is something that most of us need. So I'm so glad that you're here to talk about this, because it is. It's hard.
It is a difficult thing. So. Yes?
I was just going to say, in regard to letting go and acknowledging memories, I think one thing that helped me a lot get through our move was that where we lived in Illinois, my mother lived right next door. And when she passed away, of course, we had the daunting task of cleaning out her home and all of that. And we did all that and such, but then we got new neighbors who turned out to be wonderful people, and people my mom knew. There was a connection there, so I knew that would make her happy. But afterwards, they moved in, and they invited us over to the house, and I was so dreading it because I thought, this is my mom's house, and now these new people are in it, and I just didn't know how I was going to feel about it. But when we got over there, it really wasn't as bad because their things were there. And it really wasn't my mom's house anymore. And so when we moved, we got everything moved out and we walked through the house, and people have asked us since we've been up here, oh, do you miss your home? I mean, we lived there 36 years, you know, and we lived 64 years in the town. So it was like, you know, I really don't, because at the point when we sold our house and all of our things were out of it, it was just a house. Our memories were going with us, our belongings were going with us, and it really wasn't as much as I thought it would be to leave it.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really...
So I think maybe that could help.
Right. Thank you for that
part, because when you tear it all down, it's just a building.
Right.
And our family was up here, and our stuff was going with us, and our memories went with us. So we didn't leave that all behind.
Thank you. Pam, did you have something?
Well, I've moved twice in the last 3 years. The first move was the hardest because I gave up the whole basement full of stuff. It took 2 huge truckloads for these guys that bought it to take it out. And I just had to shut my mind and my eyes pretty much and say, okay, I'm sorry, but this is gone, because it just got too overwhelming.
It does overwhelm us, doesn't it? Our possessions.
To deal with just the things on the first floor and everything else, and to just do that.
Physical clutter becomes emotional clutter and can lead to spiritual clutter and everything. It's an extension of the physical.
And I think about some of the things sometimes, but then again, it's like, well, hopefully somebody else is using it. And in fact, a fellow that my son works with brought him this one little notepad thing that had like a vinyl cover or something. My name was on it. So my stuff even got as far as Monroe, so.
That's kind of fun to know that. Anyone else? Hi.
I just think that your kids don't want most of this stuff because they want to make their own memories.
And I know I can put like a dozen things on the table, and my daughter will, my one daughter would come over and say, oh my gosh, I think I'll take it all. And the other one would say, maybe that, you know, and stuff. And so, you know, most of them don't want it. The guilty ones will say, I think I'll take it all, you know, and stuff.
I was reading a current article about that, and the younger generation, the millennial generation, is learning to live so lean, and they don't really care about possessions, and they don't really care about heirlooms, and so you don't have that audience there for your grandchildren, really.
Well, and lifestyles change. They don't want silver, and they don't want fine china, and they don't want to have tablecloth. I mean, the lifestyle changes are massive too.
Exactly. So, you know, the changes, all of it, affect it. Yes, go ahead.
So we have two boys, aged 27 and 30.
Got it.
And it occurred to me that, I mean, they know what some of the valuable, meaningful things are in our house to us, you know, and other things they would have no clue where they're from, or, you know, and it's like, so should we get rid of this or not? You know, I don't know. But I thought about taking pictures of some things and labeling them so they know this came from a certain aunt or uncle, and
that's very nice.
And this we just picked up somewhere, it didn't matter, you know, and just so they would have an idea. And then of course they can do whatever they want to with it, but they may not remember where some of the things are from.
Right. They're calling themselves, my children are your kids' age, 30s, early 30s. They're calling themselves minimalists.
Okay.
That's the new phrase for that generation. As the lady in the back said, they don't need the fine china, the placemats, the napkin rings, all the accoutrements that we have collected all our lives. So just in saying that, they didn't care about my 2 storage units of antiques. So I have one empty. And I'm painfully working on the second because I personally just moved into a flat, which, as everyone here knows, there's no bedroom in a flat.
No basement?
No basement.
Okay.
I do have a garage, but the cats live in there because I built a catio. But anyways, yeah, so no, my children are minimalists, and they have no desire whatsoever, even in the boxes of photos of themselves. So
you're still going to keep the photos, though.
Yeah, I have those. I mean, whatever they do with them,
right,
is mine. But yeah, minimalism is what's going on in America now. Sorry.
No, I want everyone to interact. It's important to the discussion. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
And a lot of the antiques will just dry out and fall apart. The wooden ones. They do.
Eventually.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, you're right. If you don't live in a house, it falls apart. So, and so do the contents also, yeah.
Anyone else? How much time? 15 minutes. Okay. So, after all is said and done, and we've gone through all the process, I say welcome home. So, anyway, I think we can talk a little more. Is it okay that I'm a little bit short of the hour? Okay, so let's have a discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone? So go ahead.
Okay, from a guy that's 63 years old,
Love it.
I just want all the guys to know that you're not 30 or 35 years old. I moved every one of my kids with U-Hauls, and to actually hire somebody to move me was weird as hell. But we did it, and I'm convinced that by the time I got all the boxes together, everything packaged, to try to load them up in a U-Haul, to drive 100 miles and then come back the next day, probably would have killed me. It really wasn't my goal for retirement. Number 2, we had this ongoing heated discussion about our dining room set, which when we were much younger, when we were looking at other furniture, we saw this dining room set. And I felt like back then, that's a sign of prestige. And when we were able to actually buy that dining room set, it was a big thing for us. So naturally, we're moving from a very large home that had a very big dining room to a smaller home. Well, we realized nobody thought this dining room set was worth anything except us. So in the end, the home that we were able to get had a family room in the lower level. That's where the dining room set went. And what's kind of cool about it is that's where our family learned about becoming grandparents, about people getting married. So if you can pull a piece of furniture that has some good memories with you, I would recommend that. The other point, as far as siblings, I mean, we packed up stuff for my mom, my brother, her mom, her dad. And over the years, you accumulate things. Don't be so quick to throw everything away, because when we cleaned out my mom's stuff, we found over $100 of money in cards and envelopes. Just lately, when we cleaned out her mom's stuff, we found a $10 bill in one of the cards, ironically from her aunt at my mom's funeral, which on a Sunday afternoon was kind of neat because we went out for ice cream. We decided we'd work for 2 or 3 hours. We needed to take a break, and we did that. And then there was one more thing, but maybe it'll come to me. But, so that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. I love Matt's perspective, and I appreciate that very much. So, anyone else?
So his mom, like every Christmas, would say, I would like each of you to pick out one item in a certain category, like a painting or a wall hanging or something, and I'll put your name behind it, on the back of it. And then someday when we have got passed on to heaven, then you'll know who gets what. And it wasn't, she didn't do it with everything, but that really helped. Because then we knew our names were on the back of certain things, and we had each decided and taken turns. And that was good.
My mother, who's 83 on the Vespa, she about probably 10 years ago made us all write down what we wanted, and then she has everything documented and labeled, so when the time does come, there should be no arguments amongst her 6 children. And because yes, we have family dynamics, and to eliminate it in advance so there aren't problems on the day that that we have to pick and choose. So it's pretty much predetermined. And it was all distributed, it's all been accounted for very equally amongst the siblings. So it was very fair, intentional or not. It just worked out really well. I think that's part of pre-planning too. I think that's really a great thing, if you're willing to do that. Can she share her funny story, will you? No, you won't? Okay. All right.
No, we're not planning on moving, we're not doing any of those things. But we also know what it's like to have to clean out when somebody else passes on. And I love estate sales. I could go to them every week. But I also walk through that and think, I don't want to leave that to I only have 1 child. So we don't have any fighting, but he's going to, and it's a boy, so you know everything is rummage sale. That's what it is. So you do have to think about that. And I loved collecting antiques, and those things are of value, like I thought they would be, or trying to get rid of it. And that's why when you mentioned Craigslist and eBay, that's one of the goals that I have, is to get rid of some of this stuff. Just get rid of it. But I find that the eBay thing, to me, is overwhelming. The Craigslist thing is dangerous to me. There is a couple of sites on the internet, I think it's on Facebook, that Lloyd Swap, Janesville Swap, whatever it might be, that you could do and then meet at a separate place. But that's one of my goals for this year, is to do that. Get rid of some of my stuff.
No, I didn't, that was my sentiments exactly. Why would I leave this stuff to my kids and they don't want anything to do with it? Even though I loved it.
It reminded me of my youth. Yes. That was the thing. A lot of the
personal triggers.
Yeah, a lot of the things I collected were things that I remember when I was a kid. Well, my son doesn't care about that.
Well, fortunate for my girlfriend, in Northern Illinois, she owns an antique shop.
Oh, wow.
So she came over once a week with her van and we'd load it up. She'd give me $50 and off she'd go. So it was one van load at a time. So I could process that as I went. And then I always think, oh, I hope she's making some money. Oh, I hope she's making some money. And she did.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, she just got back from vacation.
That's the kind of money I want to bring back to me.
I don't want to work with her anymore.
Any other comments from anyone? Ideas that you've come up with in your process of downsizing at this point? Anything? Yes.
Yeah, here's something that I hadn't thought about until, but sometimes when you're moving, you don't really know where you're going to move to. So I would mark on the boxes very diligently what room they were coming from in our house. However, I really didn't know what room they were going to go into at our new house. But if you did know that, when the movers are moving you in, you can say kitchen or family room or master bedroom or office or something. That would have been very helpful.
Very helpful, right.
And then I have this thing about being, when you pack, I took filling the box up to the extreme. But they tell you they want it filled up right to the box. There's a term for it when it's not filled up where the box kind of compresses.
There's space.
So what you need to do is to fill it up completely. But then towards the end, you get kind of desperate because then you're like, man, if I had this or I had that. So then you start then from one room to another room. And then that when it gets kind of dangerous because then someone else is looking for things. And it's like, I don't know where the hell it is. Yeah.
Label, label, label.
He's got a marked kitchen and you open it up and the first thing in it is a bunch of sheets or something. And I was like, well, this isn't the kitchen. Where am I supposed, and it's because he had room there, so he put some sheets or he put whatever in that box.
Yeah, fill it up.
And underneath there was kitchen stuff, but he didn't always have the right things.
I would do something soft on the top.
Yeah.
Probably t-shirts or socks.
Oh, well, we had a lot of that too. We had a lot of good use for old towels and stuff as you wrap breakable things in it. Put it when you're packing, but.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the screen, you have Willow Wick Assisted Living. Do you work for them?
No, interesting, and that was not intentional. That was supposed to be an edited slide, my graphic artist, but I'll share that with you. In addition to being a senior lifestyle concierge, I also do go to assisted livings in southern Wisconsin, and I help assisted livings do their programming. I bring in guest speakers, fun guest speakers too, and Maureen will be there next week on Wednesday, and it's a wonderful small assisted living in Clinton. It's brand new, and what I like about it is it's only 24 apartments, but it's meticulous, it's brand new, the views are beautiful, it's so clean. The one-on-one that the residents get with the caregivers there and the activity staff and the nursing staff and the kitchen staff is phenomenal because it is so small, they have the time to do that. So I help them with that, and then I also do a program with them where I take residents out once a week. Next week we're going, I call it back roads with Laura, and we're going over by Lake Geneva and looking at color and things like that. So that is correct. Yep, yep. So, but I work with a lot of assisted livings throughout Wisconsin, so I'm objective about them all. But I will tell you the special amenities of each one from my perspective, having worked in long-term care for 25 years. So thank you for asking that. That was supposed to be cleaned up, so I apologize. So any other questions or thoughts? Anything at all?
Well, I've moved so much all my life, and I've lived here, let's see, 18 years, and that's the longest I've ever lived any place in my total life. I mean, that's just an enormous amount of time to get settled in. And it's not the stuff. of the moving. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff, but it's ripping up the roots of relationships and going to another city. That's the part I'm just dreading like you can't imagine. Because
Well, can I ask you a question? Okay, so you currently live where? And where would your new destination be? Okay, and you have family in Madison, is that the reason? And do you visit your children in Madison current? No, I'm single. Oh, okay. Oh, so why Madison, if I can
because
ask?
that's where my sister and my niece and nephew are.
Okay, and do you go visit them then?
A couple times a year. But I don't have the bond with them like I have with my friends here.
Don't you have some alternatives here, perhaps?
It's so expensive.
Well,
Yeah, Madison is much more expensive than here.
my sister is my power of attorney for everything, and she says it's going to be Madison. I mean, because she doesn't want to come down here. It's, you know, the healthcare is better up there. I already doctored.
The healthcare is better in Madison?
Well, for specialists, I have to go to university.
Okay, yep, maybe for specialists. I don't think it's better, I think it's just that there are specialties. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, for regular stuff, this is fine. I love it.
Well, you remember what I said at the beginning of my program that that's okay. It's good review. I believe, having worked in assisted living and long-term care for 25 years, my goal and attachment to the aging population is one of love, but also I advocate for them, but also that I believe that if a person can live in their own home as long as they possibly can, unless it's a health issue or a safety issue, then, and you're your own person still, right? So it's your final decision, and you need to think of yourself first.
Well, I've got my name in, and it's come up twice, and I've both times said I'm not ready, so.
Well, just keep saying I'm not ready then.
But it just looks so foreboding to me to go into these places, and you know, I have a boyfriend who lives where does he live? I don't know, it's a fancy place in Madison, I can't think right now. Attic Angels, pretty fancy, and they have all kinds of things going on.
I know all of them.
But it's just so confining and so gossipy and so petty, and I just think, how can you go and live in a place like that? I know all the senior ones are. I'm not tearing down Attic Angels. It's just because I have so much experience there. But when I used to visit older people in the apartments down here, it's the same thing. It's so petty, and I just can't. That's the part that's killing me.
Well, here's what I would say.
You know, I drive in my garage. I go in my place. It's nobody's business where I'm coming and going. I don't have to answer to anybody in the front lobby who snoops around. And
here's what I would say to you is stay where you are as long as you can. Does socialization matter to you? Yes. Okay, and where do you do your socializing? Because that's a key factor in people living alone. The biggest thing is that they self-isolate and they don't socialize.
One more here.
One more. I think if I was her, I would just have everything arranged and stuff, and so when she does decide to move on her own terms, she doesn't have to worry about what her sister's going to do. Just have all your financial
oh,
stuff.
she won't do anything. I have to do it all.
Yeah, but I mean,
No, they won't have everything. You're right. That's what
everything else.
So you're ready. That's exactly what I'm working on. That's exactly what I'm working on. That's exactly what. No, they don't. Well, they're not. In some ways, I'm in better shape than she is.
Okay. Well, I want to thank every single one of you. I want you to know that you have my brochure. You can call me if you have a question. I do question answering gratis. I'm happy to. And if you want to sit down with me for your downsizing questions, I'm happy to do that as well. I want to again thank Maureen Birchfield of Hedberg Public Library for inviting me here today. And I thought this was a great presentation, and I'm grateful to each and every one of you for your input. Thank you so much.